So I was going through practice, as I always do in Friday, and I did a qualifying run, and at the end of it, I ended up in 5th place, just 4.5 tenths away from the fastest time. So I quickly scrambled to my capture software and got this on film because I had to show you guys just how pacey we were at the start of the Grand Prix. Welcome guys to career mode once again. This is episode number 33 for the Singapore Grand Prix. Yeah, I said we were going to be quick at this racetrack. I did not anticipate us being this close to the lead pack. This is still Friday practice. I wanted to show you guys an onboard lap still in this session just in case maybe it was a fluke or in case, you know, the track was just super gripped up in this session. But yeah, as you can see, we're 5 tenths up on this latest run and we go position 3, 1.1 seconds away from Sebastian Vettel in practice 2. That was just absolutely mad. I don't know what to say. We've made some huge gains, as you guys saw in Belgium. We got some front downforce upgrades for this race as well. And it's all come together quite nicely here in this Singapore Grand Prix, running with a really high downforce setup as well. I think it's like 10.9 aero. So the fact that we're running, you know, really heavy downforce as well might make up for the fact that we're actually lacking a little bit. But either way, we look really, really competitive here in practice. So, yeah, there you go. Welcome to this episode. Not the most conventional way to start it, but there you go. Hopefully, we can have a really good weekend. We're going to switch on some brand new power unit components and see what we can do in this Singapore Grand Prix. It's time for quali.
The sky is dark and the lights are on. Welcome to qualifying here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore.
Okay, so here we are for qualifying then for the Singapore Grand Prix. As you can imagine, with the pace that we showed in practice, if we show even half of that potential, then there's no real need for us to really put too much effort into qualifying one. So I'm not really going to show you much footage from that. But I'm showing you here Lewis Hamilton, how fast he was in the speed trap. So we've already done our first run, 6th place, just 5 tenths away from the pace. He did 300 kilometers an hour on the speed traps, and as you can see us going through there into turn 1, the speed trap caught us at 291 k's an hour. So, you know, only 8 or 9 k's an hour off of Lewis's, you know, top speed trap time, and that was really close, considering especially that we're running with really, really heavy downforce, very close to the mark. So I feel like for the rest of the season, it might be worth chucking on maybe 1 or 2 extra clicks of downforce versus the AI in order to make up for the downforce deficit we have, and it might make us more competitive like we're showing right now, because yeah, chucking on so much downforce has just made this car come alive. It does help as well that there are a lot of slow speed corners around this track in Singapore, but either way, things are looking really good. So Q2, we set a time on the ultra soft tyres on the used set that we used in Q1, and it's put us in 4th place at the moment. I thought with the extra pace that we have, I might see if I can get into Q3 with a set of super soft tyres, and that's what we're venturing off to do now. We're fairly close to our previous lap, just a 10th in it, really, as we head into the 3rd sector, so I'm just doing my absolute best here to you know, just get a time, just to beat it, so I can start the race on the supers, but unfortunately, this 3rd sector doesn't really look like it's coming together, and we're only just going to fall short of our previous best by 0.08 of a second. Very, very frustrating. So in the end there, we progressed to Q3 on a set of tyres that have done quite a few laps in qualifying. So hopefully that doesn't hurt us in the race, but we have made it through to Q3. Fernando as well, just backing up the pace of the McLaren. Like I said, I don't think he has those upgrades that we've been getting in terms of the engine for the last, you know, season and a half. That's why he's so slow versus me. But team radio,
we'll see light rain transition into heavy within 15 minutes time.
We have some rain heading our way in this session. I'm not too sure how I feel about that, in all honesty, given how quick we are in the dry. If we get some wet weather interfering this session, then it could really throw us around a little bit. So with that rain pretty much hitting us imminently, I decided to just drive out and be one of the first to set a lap at the start of the session. Perez is just in front of me. He's the first car out to complete a lap, and as you can see, it's already raining on a first flying lap, so this is essentially going to be our best lap of the session unless we can make the inters work once we do our second run. But yeah, just doing the absolute best job I can. The track was really slippery. It was well past the point where the dry tyres were really working. I think the DRS got disabled about halfway around the lap, so I was really just scrambling to get to the end of this lap and make sure it was a good one. I think we might be Perez's time, so we might be on provisional pole here for the Singapore Grand Prix if we can get it across the line. Perez does a 57 flat, we beat him by 9/10 and we go provisional pole position for the Singapore Grand Prix, but unfortunately Valtteri Bottas, who I believe was the car behind me, topped us by 5/10 in the end. So that was the end of the first run. No one will be improving on dry tyres, so I thought it might be worth trying the inters here near the end of the session to see if we can topple our dry time and, I don't know, maybe get us closer to the front of the grid, especially with the, you know, changeable conditions that we have right now. It's just worth giving it a crack and seeing what we can come up with, but unfortunately, yeah, the lap wasn't quite there. And that was the end of our session, especially when we ran wide and hit the wall as well. Massive bout of oversteer and just overcorrected a little bit too profusely. And that was the end of our session. So it's 4th place for the Singapore Grand Prix. I think it's our best qualifying ever in career mode. So there we go. I'm so stoked to be just 5/10 away from the Mercedes. That's absolutely awesome. Fernando backing up our pace as well, qualifying in P8. So heading into the Singapore Grand Prix, we could come away with a really good race, possibly a podium if we get off to a nice start. I'm going to try and be aggressive with the strategy as well and make sure that we hold on to any track position we get, because if we get some big points here, then that's really going to consolidate our position in the championship. It's time for the race. Faster cars? Really? Jeff, I genuinely think we're going to be challenging for the position that we've qualified in today. Guys, welcome to the Singapore Grand Prix. In terms of the race strategy, 2-stop, we may switch that up to a 1-stop. I'm really looking forward to this race and getting in amongst with the front runners for the first time in this career mode series ever. We genuinely have pace, and this is the most promising round of this championship we've ever, displayed. So really looking forward to, mixing it with the front runners, with the Mercedes, the Ferraris, everyone, and seeing what kind of progression we have made so far in this career mode series. One thing though that must be said, it's going to be awfully tough to move forward in this Grand Prix. Overtaking might be pretty darn tough, especially with the amount of downforce we're running at this Grand Prix, so we're going to have to make it work through the 3rd sector where we do shine through. But we're ready for the start now for the Singapore Grand Prix. 5 red lights, and we're underway for the Grand Prix of Singapore. Fairly decent start. We can't really make any inroads on the top 3, so we're going to have to pretty much consolidate our position as we head through turn 1. We've got Hamilton and Vettel as 2 championship rivals, as you guys know full well, going side by side through the 1st sector of the Grand Prix. Bottas is absolutely steaming away. Perez has moved his way up into P5, so he's displaced Verstappen down the order, actually going side by side, exchanging positions, just like Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton are right now. That was very close for Sebastian, getting right up against the barrier, getting squeezed by Hamilton, and because of that he's dropped to position number 3 in this Grand Prix. Here's the replay, and when you look at his onboard, he gets nowhere near the wall. So I don't know what I was so excited about. He had it completely under control there. I thought he was going to get squeezed into the wall. Could have been a massive crash, could have lost his front wing. Anything could happen if there was just a little less room between the 2 championship rivals there. But thankfully, we survive. Bottas sets the fastest up of the Grand Prix, unsurprisingly, but it's going to be down to us though on this 2nd lap here to see what our pace is like versus those guys. For the most part, it looks like we're kind of staying in touch with Vettel here, which is quite encouraging. We're breaking away from Sergio Pérez ever so slightly. Not really in the 1st sector, but the 3rd sector is where we find a lot of time. These slow speed corners, we take a lot of risks, we mount the curbs a lot, and that's how we make up the lap time, obviously. But as you can see, the end of the 2nd lap here, I think we might have just lost touch with Sebastian Vettel there, lost DRS range, and that was the end of that. The front three just basically got away. Hamilton actually stopped on lap 5 there, very early on in this race, so he might be doing a 3-stop. The standard strategy was a 2-stop, but if you want to do that, you got to be stopping around lap 9. Lap 9, 10? But he's gone on to ultra soft tyres again, so that says to me he might be on a 3-stop, which is too much. It's far too much. Given the tyre wear that we've got so far on our ultra soft tyres, we did 2 laps, maybe 3 laps in qualifying with those, and we're only at 25% with those tyres. So Lewis has definitely made the wrong call in terms of tyre strategy today. He will be out of contention to win this race. But for us though, given the tyre wear so far, it hasn't been too bad. I think I might be doing the 1-stop today. I'm going to go onto the soft compound tyres. Generally, as a rule of thumb, if you can do the first third of the race on the softest compound tyre, you can generally get the harder compound to do the final 2/3. So that's essentially what I'm going to try and do today, pitting onto the soft compound tyres at the end of lap 9. The guys behind us, or the guys who were in front of us, I think it's Bottas and Vettel, stopped on the previous lap, so hopefully I can rejoin fairly close to those guys and rejoin them in their battle. Sergio Pérez actually carried on for another lap, so he is certainly for sure doing the 1-stop alongside me, and Raikkonen surprisingly is behind me. I can't remember what happened to him in qualifying. He might not have made it into qualifying 3 and was starting fairly far down the order, but either way he's got a lot of work to do in the second 2/3 of the Singapore Grand Prix. But meanwhile, we rejoined just behind Esteban Ocon, very close to Daniel Ricciardo as well, who started dead last at the back of the field due to a grid penalty, and he hasn't made a stop yet, so he's on very old super soft tyres, so hopefully he doesn't hold us up too much. So we're warming the tyres, trying to get some heat in those and see what we can do, because we are going to go for a massive lunge here into the middle sector. I was just preparing the tyres just to make sure that they had enough, I don't know, life in them so that they could get ready for a big braking lunge up the inside of Daniel. In the end, it worked though, and we get into position number 8. Next up is Ocon, who I believe also hasn't stopped, and he's taken his ultra soft tyres a very long way into this Grand Prix. And as you could imagine, they're probably very, very second-hand, like you saw into that hairpin. He was very slow, and again into this next right-hander, he's really slow on the brakes. You'd think if anything he'd be slow kind of in the mid-corner and on exit, but he actually gets decent traction out of those corners. He's just very conservative under brakes, which really catches us out and almost risks losing our front wing. So we go up his inside into the stadium kind of section there, and that's us up into P7. So from here on in, I think everyone else in front of us have all made their pit stops, with the exception of Sergio Pérez, I believe Kevin Magnussen, and also Carlos Sainz. 2 of those drivers, of course, making their pit stops on this lap. So that's us back into P5, and essentially where we're meant to be in this Grand Prix. You can see Hamilton not too far up the road on his ultra soft tyres, given that he did a 6-lap undercut, 5-lap undercut. He isn't too far up the road, and yeah, he might certainly be contesting with us for a spot just outside the podium in P4 in this Singapore Grand Prix. So yeah, things are looking great, absolutely fantastic at this stage. Sergio Pérez has finally made his stop on lap 14, almost halfway through the race, and he is going to be taking his, I'm guessing, soft compound tyres? No, he's pitted onto the super soft tyres. But either way, safety car is out in the Singapore Grand Prix. Max Verstappen is out, and we'll get a replay of what happened to him. He is in a very long train here, so maybe he got caught up with someone. No, of course he didn't. Engine failure. I find it funny as well how he managed to pull it right up on the Singapore Airlines signage. He might get a few cheeky flights around the world for the rest of the season, who knows, but either way, nice plug. But yeah, safety car is out now for the Singapore Grand Prix. Back to all seriousness, I had a real moment for 30 seconds there, considering, switching up the strategy, but I thought, no, we'll stick to our guns. We're on the soft compound tyres. We only recently switched to those, and we're going to make it to the end now, especially now that the safety car has come out. We can cool out the tyres, give them a little bit of a breather, and just bring them home to the finish. Now, it's worth noting that everyone else around us still has to make another stop to get to the end, so at some stage we will inherit this lead of the Singapore Grand Prix. It's just going to be a matter of when, but getting ready for the restart. Bottas was driving really slowly, and as a consequence of that, Vettel was all over the place, weaving, just trying to avoid his rear end, which I found to be a little bit weird. And in all that, with the restart, I was just caught napping there. So we've lost about a second and a half to the leaders, and that pretty much leaves me very exposed to Kimi Räikkönen, who's recently just switched onto the ultra soft tyres, and he's going to be ultra hard to keep behind us. So yeah, we'll do what we can for now, but I think it might be a losing battle here trying to keep Kimi Räikkönen behind. But yeah, we'll see what inroads we can make. It's very important for us to stay as close to the leaders as we can, because any margin we get after their pit stop is what we're going to have to play with for the rest of the race. But Räikkönen flies right past us on the DRS straight. I was in rich revs, I did everything I could, but in the end, the Ferrari, it's a Ferrari, and there's only so much you can do in a McLaren Honda when we're running so much downforce on the car as what we are. Lewis Hamilton is out of the Grand Prix. That's literally only a lap and a half after the safety car has pulled back into the pit lane. Lewis is out of this race, and he was well down the order. He was buried in the field, was on the ultra soft tyres, and it would have been a really good fight between us and Hamilton to see who would have came out on top there. I thought for sure, yeah, it was going to be an interesting battle, but yeah, there we go. Lewis is out. Unfortunately, no safety car or anything like that, so we're just going to have to carry on with the position that we've got at the moment. So Räikkönen pulls into the pit lane. Bottas pitted a lap or two ago as well, and now we find Sergio Pérez attacking us now for effective P2, or maybe even P1 in the Singapore Grand Prix. He goes to the outside, couldn't quite get the traction around there, and he still holds on to P3 for the moment. There was a huge train of cars all pulling into the pit lane, so I thought it was worth bringing up the replay cameras and seeing what was going on there, mainly the Toro Rossos, the Force Indias, and this is Bottas making a move on Kimi Räikkönen on the start-finish straight. Kimi actually made a major mistake at the final corner and leaves the door open for Bottas to make the move. So, great move from Bottas. If anything, I want him in front because he's on the soft compound tyres. He's going to be slower because of that, and he might hold up Räikkönen for the rest of this race. We've now got Alonso. Fernando. Why, oh why, oh why. Race after race, and McLaren Honda just continues to let me down in the Constructors. He is out of the Grand Prix, pulled off to the side. I don't know what it is. Is the team favouring me? Because I'm not part of this. I don't know anything about this. Fernando just gets such bad luck, and we haven't had any real reliability troubles apart from Baku, and we decided to run one of our engines into the ground. But meanwhile, we've got Sergio Pérez again having another look up the inside into the middle sector. We've actually inherited the lead now after Vettel made his stop on the previous lap. So this is effectively for the victory of the Singapore Grand Prix with 8 laps to go. You can see Sebastian Vettel going through turn 1 there. That is the gap, so it's about 15 seconds, and it's down to us to hold on to this gift that we've been given so far, trying to hold off Perez. If anything, I'm hoping that Perez doesn't stop for the rest of this race, and with his reduced pace, you know, he's not a Ferrari, he's not a Mercedes. I'm hoping that we can break away from him, and Perez can kind of be like a rear gunner for us. I'm hoping that he can be a little bit of a distraction for the leaders as they make their charge through the field. This is Sebastian Vettel really closing us in. 4 seconds lap. His fastest lap was a 1 minute 40.1 or something, and my previous lap was like a 1 minute 44. So yeah, the pace is absolutely nowhere on the soft compound tyres, and Vettel is absolutely storming through the field on those fresh ultra soft tyres. He has a little look at Sergio Pérez on the DRS straight, and unfortunately he's got the move done. He almost got me in that braking zone too as well. Such is the performance of that car right now with those fresh tyres. It's going to be very tough, and I mean very tough, to keep Seb behind for the final 5 laps of this race. Maybe if I had lower downforce, I'd be more of a chance, but I don't think I'd be as far up the road as what I am without the setup that I've got on at the moment. But Vettel goes to the outside through the 3rd sector. He might get the better traction though, and he's going to get me heading into the 3rd sector. We'll go for a little bit of a dive and see if we can get him back. A bit of contact with the side pods. Vettel throws up the hand in frustration, and he's got the move done. That's it. That was all I could offer. I was basically at the limit of those tyres. I wasn't too fast at this stage. I did everything I could with the strategy to get myself in this position, but in the end, Vettel in the Ferrari, he was way too quick, and he takes the lead back. But it's not all over though. We're still holding down P2 with Kimi Räikkönen now starting to make his charge back through the field. Bottas is also following him through, and it's just down to Sergio Pérez now on this final lap to keep him at bay and kind of protect me from losing 2nd place in this race. Here goes Räikkönen into the same left-hander, and he gets the move done as well. Perez, hopefully he got something in the tank to dive him back up the inside into the right-hander. He does, but I think Räikkönen's going to get in there, and he does. So yeah, Räikkönen has been released, and Vettel wins the race pretty comprehensively in the end there. He had mega pace. But for us, though, it's going to be P2, 18 points. I'll definitely take that.
Thank you for all your hard work out there. That was a strong drive and a good finish. Well done.
So, here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
So there we go, guys. Sebastian Vettel has stormed to victory here in the Singapore Grand Prix. We came home in second. Very solid drive, 18 points. The car, I didn't mention it at any point during this race, but it was very consistent, very stable, and actually really confidence-inspiring. For me, this is, the best the car has been the entire career mode series. It's really come on leaps and bounds, and this track, Singapore, has really played into the strengths of this McLaren. So, really proud of, what we've done in terms of developments. The setup was really good, and in the end, we got the results that, well, we really exceeded our expectations, but it was a really well-deserved 18 points, and in the end, we've really, solidified our position in P4 in the Constructors, and I think P6 in the Drivers' standings. We may have actually made some really solid inroads to Max Verstappen, who I believe DNF'd in that Grand Prix. So, if our luck, as it is right now, continues, we might be able to overtake both Red Bull drivers in this championship, which is, absurd. I never, in a million years, thought that we'd be able to challenge Red Bull in the drivers. It's a shame, though, for Alonso that he just hasn't been there with the upgrades and also with the luck. He just keeps retiring. I mean, what can you do when you're not really given a chance to get amongst the battle like I have been? But guys, that has been this episode for today, the Singapore Grand Prix. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, to see plenty more F1 2017 videos. As you can see in the top right hand corner of the screen, we've got a lot of resource points, and as of this moment, I'm not going to spend those. I think I'm going to, divert those to the Department of Efficiency for Aero. After doing the maths, I feel like it might be worthwhile just doing an extra, efficiency upgrade and making next season a little bit easier for us so we can upgrade faster. But by the same token, we could also have a look at doing a major engine upgrade, which might be 1,200 resource points. So if we do divert down that path, then that's something that would really benefit us in the short term as well. But yeah, that's it. In terms of the actual episodes, I've actually caught up to all the ones I've pre-recorded ahead of time. So, as of this moment, this is all I've recorded. So, from here on in, I don't know what's going to happen in future episodes. I've kind of been holding out for the patch to boost the performance, because the massive 1.8 patch from Codemasters should be coming out fairly soon, this week apparently. From Monday, Tuesday, whatever it is onwards, we should hopefully have the patch, and that changes a lot of things within the F1 game. So, you may not see an F1 2017 career mode video until then, but we'll have to wait and see. Power unit components are running really low as well. We only have, components 5 and 6 that have any sort of reasonable life left in them, and we've got quite a few races to go left in this series, or in this season, sorry. So we may need to take an engine penalty. Like I said in the last episode, I just don't know when we're going to do that. It might be at the next episode in Malaysia, because I'm not too sure about my pace there. I feel like that's a heavily dependent track on downforce and also power. So we'll see how we go, but I may be taking some penalties there. We'll have to wait and see. But that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next one, I'll see you next time.